The Galactic Council chamber shimmered under artificial starlight, an illusion meant to inspire awe. To Commander Aaron Vallis, it was nothing more than a hollow spectacle. He stood at the center of the circular hall, his expression carefully neutral as the Supreme Chancellor leaned forward with a smirk. The council members flanked him, an array of robed figures seated in their elevated chairs, each representing a different dominion of the galaxy. "You speak of revolution," the Chancellor said, his voice rich with amusement. "Yet time and again, your Orion Syndicate fails to land a single decisive blow. You think you frighten us? You are but gnats buzzing at the edges of a great empire." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Aaron did not flinch. He had known this would be the response, just as he knew that beneath their arrogance lay fear. It was buried deep, hidden behind layers of bureaucracy and centuries of dominance, but it was there. "Is that so?" Aaron asked, his voice steady. "You believe we have no reach, no teeth?" The Supreme Chancellor rose, the ornate insignia on his chest gleaming. "We have tolerated your existence out of amusement. Your little attacks are predictable, your tactics uninspired. The mere fact that you stand here today, breathing, is proof of our mercy." Aaron inclined his head slightly. "Then I suppose you won't mind when we show you what real precision looks like." The Chancellor's smirk widened. "Oh, please, do enlighten us." Aaron turned without another word, striding from the chamber. His footsteps echoed in the vast hall as the council's laughter faded behind him. He did not look back. They had given him everything he needed. Outside, Lyra was waiting, leaning casually against the polished walls of the docking bay. Her fingers danced over the interface of a wrist-mounted holoscreen, adjusting signal frequencies as she monitored the council's security feeds. "That went well," she mused. "They bought it," Aaron replied. She flicked a glance at him. "They always do." Nearby, Rin paced beside their sleek infiltration vessel, arms crossed. He was their best pilot, a man who could maneuver through asteroid fields as if he were threading a needle. "We're actually doing this, then?" he asked. "We are," Aaron confirmed. "They think we're after Orbital Command Station 7. That's where they'll send their fleets, and that's where they'll keep their eyes. But Celestia Prime is the true target." Rin exhaled sharply, shaking his head. "You're betting a lot on their arrogance." "I'm counting on it," Aaron corrected. "They think we're amateurs. They think we can't touch them." Lyra grinned. "Then let's shatter their illusions." The ship's ramp lowered with a quiet hiss, and the three of them boarded. The interior was dimly lit, sleek and efficient. At the rear, Cato sat cross-legged on a crate, assembling the last of their neural disruptors. His hands worked with mechanical precision, the dim glow of circuitry reflecting in his sharp eyes. "How long until we reach Celestia Prime?" he asked without looking up. "Less than a cycle," Rin said, already moving toward the cockpit. Aaron seated himself at the hollow table, activating a detailed projection of the planet. Celestia Prime, the heart of the Galactic Council's governance, was wrapped in layers of defense grids and automated sentries. A direct assault would be suicide, but they weren't attacking directly. Lyra joined him, her fingers skimming across the interface. "We'll be entering under diplomatic clearance. The credentials should hold long enough to get us inside the inner city. Once we're there, I'll override their security grid from within." Cato secured the final disruptor into its casing and stood. "And when it all goes to hell?" "Then we make sure it's a hell they never recover from," Aaron said. Silence settled over the team, not from hesitation, but from understanding. They all knew what was at stake. This wasn't just about striking a blow. It was about changing everything. Rin's voice crackled over the ship's comm. "We're clear for departure. Next stop, Celestia Prime." As the engines hummed to life and the stars outside blurred into streaks of motion, Aaron allowed himself a single thought of the past. He remembered his homeworld before the council had burned it to cinders. He remembered the screams, the hollowed-out cities, the banners of conquest raised over the ruins. Let them mock. Let them believe themselves untouchable. By the time they realized the truth, it would already be too late. Celestia Prime gleamed beneath them, a world of towering spires and seamless order. The city stretched in perfect symmetry, a testament to the Galactic Council's obsession with control. From orbit, its defense grid pulsed with the artificial glow of energy barriers, automated turrets tracking the sky with cold precision. It was a fortress disguised as civilization. Aaron stood at the viewport, watching as the planet loomed closer. Beside him, Lyra adjusted the final sequences of their forged diplomatic credentials. "We're cleared for descent," she said. "They haven't flagged us." "They won't," Aaron replied. "Not yet." The ship slid into the designated entry lane, passing effortlessly through the layers of planetary security. Council officials had ensured that diplomatic vessels were subject to minimal scrutiny. After all, why would anyone dare betray the peacekeepers of the galaxy? Rin guided them through the sky lanes with practiced ease, weaving between the silver-clad towers that speared toward the clouds. "Bringing us in nice and quiet," he muttered. "But once we move, we won't have much time." The docking bay welcomed them with sterile efficiency. Sleek patrol units stood at rest along the perimeter, their presence a silent warning rather than an active deterrent. A single customs officer approached as the ramp descended. His uniform was crisp, his expression indifferent. "Identification," he said, eyes flicking to the holopass Aaron provided. A pause. A scan. Then a nod. "Welcome to Celestia Prime. Proceed." They stepped into the city's heart, blending seamlessly into the controlled flow of foot traffic. Above them, the Council's central spire pierced the sky, its mirrored surface reflecting the manufactured serenity of the metropolis. That was where their true target waited. Cato adjusted the case slung over his shoulder, his voice low. "We're in. What's our first move?" Lyra tapped a device embedded in her wrist. "I need access to the planetary security grid. There's a relay station a few sectors away. Give me 10 minutes there, and I can black out the entire surveillance network." Aaron nodded. "We move fast. No unnecessary engagements." They separated into prearranged roles, slipping into the city's arteries. Aaron and Lyra disappeared into a transport hub, blending with diplomats and officials, while Cato and Rin veered toward an auxiliary power station. The plan relied on precision. There was no room for hesitation. Inside the relay station, Lyra worked quickly, fingers gliding over the control interface as she bypassed layers of encrypted barriers. The room hummed with data streams, a symphony of organized chaos feeding into the Council's omniscient oversight. "Almost there," she whispered. "Just a little more." A red warning flashed. Lyra froze. The system had detected an anomaly. "They know," she said. The building shuddered as lockdown protocols engaged. Blast doors sealed, alarms wailed, and within seconds, patrol droids activated, their mechanical limbs whirring to life. Aaron's weapon was already in his hands. The first droid collapsed in a burst of shattered plating before it could fully deploy. Lyra crouched low, still working the console even as blaster fire erupted around them. "We need more time," she shouted. Aaron moved without hesitation, his shots precise, controlled. One droid down. Another. The room filled with the acrid scent of burning circuits. Then the lights flickered. A ripple spread through the city's infrastructure as Lyra's virus took hold. Surveillance networks collapsed. The Council's all-seeing eye went blind. "It's done," she gasped. "We need to move." They burst from the relay station just as reinforcements arrived, disappearing into the chaos they had sown. Across the city, system failures cascaded through critical sectors. Transit lines shut down, power grids faltered, and for the first time in decades, the seat of the Galactic Council experienced disruption. Cato's voice crackled through their comms. "Disruptors are planted. The main grid is failing." Rin followed. "We're locked out of the docking bays. They're shutting down all off-world transit." "They're reacting faster than expected," Aaron said. "They're afraid," Lyra corrected. The Council had always relied on absolute control. Now, as the foundations cracked, panic took root. Citizens spilled into the streets, confusion turning to unrest. Security forces scrambled for order, their responses uncoordinated. Aaron's team regrouped in the shadow of a towering monument, its polished surface reflecting the fires beginning to spread through the lower districts. "They'll realize soon," Rin muttered, "that we're not here for sabotage." Aaron's gaze lifted to the council spire, still untouched by the chaos below. "Let them." They moved toward it, slipping past scattered patrols, as the council's focus remained divided. This was where the real strike would take place. Everything else had been a distraction. By the time the council understood the truth, it would be far too late. The entrance to the council spire loomed ahead, an imposing fortress of mirrored steel and artificial light. The streets below churned with unrest, the city's population caught between confusion and rebellion as power failures rippled through Celestia Prime. Smoke billowed from distant sectors, sirens wailed, and the once orderly metropolis trembled on the edge of anarchy. But here at the heart of the Galactic Council's dominion, the illusion of control remained intact, at least for now. Aaron crouched behind a low barricade, his gaze locked on the entrance. Security patrols still held their positions, though their ranks had thinned as reinforcements were redirected to other districts. Above, surveillance drones drifted in calculated formations, their optical sensors sweeping the area. Every second wasted increased the risk of detection. "We need another way in," Rin muttered, scanning the perimeter. "There is no other way," Aaron replied. "We go through the front." "That's suicide." Lyra was already working, her fingers skimming across her wrist console as she hacked into the security grid. The holographic display flickered as she bypassed one firewall after another. "I can force a temporary blind spot in their targeting systems," she said. "But once they realize what's happening, they'll reset the protocols." "How long do we have?" "Maybe 30 seconds. Then we won't waste it." The moment she triggered the override, the drones stuttered midair, their optics flickering as their recognition protocols were scrambled. Aaron surged forward, blaster drawn, and the others followed. The first sentry barely had time to register the threat before a shot struck his chest, sending him sprawling. Another guard turned, raising his weapon. Too late. Cato fired a disruptor pulse, and the impact sent the enforcer crashing against the barricade, unconscious. They reached the main doors just as the city's automated defense systems started recalibrating. Lyra's forged clearance codes slid them past the biometric scanners, and within seconds, the team disappeared into the spire's cold interior. Inside, the contrast was stark. The chaos outside did not exist here. The walls pulsed with soft energy, data streams running seamlessly through the building's infrastructure. There was no panic, no disorder, only the quiet hum of a system that believed itself untouchable. "They don't even know we're here yet," Rin murmured. "They will soon," Aaron replied. They moved deeper into the spire, navigating corridors lined with embedded security nodes. Every step felt measured, the silence thick with unseen scrutiny. Their true objective lay at the core of the structure, the Council's classified control hub. If Lyra could breach the emergency override, they could force every security measure into lockdown, isolating the Council members inside their own fortress. Cato scanned the route ahead, eyes narrowing. "We're coming up on a heavily monitored sector. They'll have manual patrols." "We stay fast," Aaron said. "Minimal engagements. If we're pinned down, we abort." They reached the control hub just as an alert flashed on Lyra's wrist screen. The Council had finally registered the breach. "They know," she whispered. A metallic clang echoed through the corridor as security doors slammed shut behind them. A moment later, the far entrance burst open, and enforcers poured in, weapons raised. Rin reacted first, diving behind cover as blaster fire filled the air. Aaron fired back with precision, each shot calculated. One enforcer collapsed. Another staggered. But more pressed forward, advancing with relentless coordination. "I need more time," Lyra called over the chaos, her hands flying across the control panel. Cato unleashed another disruptor charge, momentarily scrambling their attackers' targeting systems. Rin seized the opening, laying down a volley of suppressing fire. The seconds stretched. Then, finally, "Got it," Lyra gasped. A surge of energy pulsed through the spire as her command took effect. Emergency overrides engaged, slamming every bulkhead and security gate into lockdown. Automated turrets powered down. Surveillance networks went dark. The council was blind. The enforcers hesitated. Aaron did not. He pressed forward, weaving through the last line of resistance. One final shot took down the squad leader, and the remaining enforcers faltered, thrown off balance by the sudden shift in control. "This is it," Lyra said. "We have full command of the spire systems. The council is trapped inside their chamber." They moved quickly, navigating through the now silent corridors until they reached the grand doors of the council chamber. The insignia of the Galactic Dominion was carved into its polished surface, a symbol of unchallenged power. With a final keystroke, Lyra forced the doors open. Inside, the Supreme Chancellor and the remaining council members stood waiting. Unlike before, there was no smirk on the Chancellor's face. No amusement. His expression was carved from stone, his gaze sharp with something between fury and disbelief. "You truly believe this changes anything?" he said. "You've disrupted a city, but the galaxy remains ours." Aaron took a slow step forward. He was acutely aware of the weight of this moment, of how history would record it. The Chancellor's voice was laced with the same arrogance the Council had always worn, a conviction that their rule was absolute. "Not for long," Aaron said. With a final command, Lyra activated the last sequence of their plan. The Spire's classified archives, centuries of hidden atrocities, betrayals, and suppressed revolutions, began transmitting across every major network in the galaxy. Every screen, every data feed, every device connected to the Dominion's grid was flooded with the truth. Files of planetary purges, secret war crimes, the Council's orchestrated genocides, hidden behind the veil of diplomacy. The illusion shattered in an instant. The Chancellor's jaw tightened as he watched his empire unravel. "You think they will care?" he said softly. Aaron held his gaze. "They already do." Beyond the chamber, the city roared, not in chaos, but in realization. People had seen. They had heard. And no empire, no matter how powerful, could survive that reckoning.